Hey Megan, good morning.
Morning. How are you?
Good. So what we're going to do today, we're going to go through and talk about the Scrub to Scale app and how to set up your pricing system, how to manage your leads, and really figure out how to customize it so that we can get this onto your website and ready to go for clients to use as well. So when you
Perfect.
first
Yeah,
sign in,
I'm so excited to put it on my website. We've been working so
yeah,
hard on getting the actual system together, and the fact that we can put it on my website is really exciting to me. So I'm really excited, and I hope that this really helps me in my business.
no, for sure. And you and I have done so much work to get to this point, and even just figuring out how to price all of the jobs and give it a range so customers aren't locked into a specific price, which I'm really excited to talk about today and get into it. So as you can see, we sign into the dashboard here, and it can give you an overview of all of your leads, how many you've received today, and just a general overview of some recent leads as well. First, though, we want to start with creating the actual pricing system and getting that launched onto a website. So to do so, we're going to go to pricing systems, and the default right now we have residential cleaning. That's the only template that we offer. We do soon hope to have commercial cleaning and some other types of cleaning available as well. But for right now, it's really designed for commercial cleaning, and we're going to name it
Residential.
what I say
You said commercial, residential,
residential. Yeah, exactly.
just to clarify.
Um, so we're going to name the system whatever your company name is, and go ahead and click create. What this is going to do is going to bring you through 7 steps in order to customize the pricing and all of your services that you offer for clients. So the first part here is really important. This is where we're going to set your hourly rate, the minimum price that you would charge a client, and your currency. But going back to hourly rate. So a lot of people want to ask like what is this rate actually is. So this number here would be what you charge your client per cleaner. So for you, for example, typically you send teams of 2, but each cleaner you would want to charge about $60 an hour to the client, correct?
Yes.
Okay. Because what this is going to calculate is based off of the total time that it thinks a job will take multiplied by your hourly rate. This way, it doesn't matter whether you send 2 people, 3 people, 1 person. This is the number that you would want to make per cleaner. And then
Okay.
we have your minimum price, which would be the least amount that you would send or quote for any job. So for you, I believe that's 125 would be your minimum price, and that ensures that you'll have enough margin to, send the cleaners there, all that everything included for your costs, correct?
Yes.
Okay. Um, we do have different options for the currencies, whether you're in Canada, Australia, Europe, but by default, we'll have the USD. Um, Here, we could set when you want the price shown to the customer cut off so that when anything above 4,500 square foot, for example, it wouldn't give the client an actual price. It would just say to contact you for a custom quote. So really, like in my opinion, 4,500 square foot is where we decided to have the cutoff for you, because anything above that point started getting into a little too much into a custom home, and it was too hard to like nail down any sort of pricing formula for that. But some people might want to lower this even to, let's say, like 3,000 so that you're cutting off any of the larger size homes. But that's how you can do that here is by changing this number. Now, the next part here, it depending on where you are and like how you want to price jobs, square foot is the default option. So when the client is putting in their information, it'll show what the square footage is based on the slider on the form. But you could also change it to home size categories, and it won't be as accurate as if you did it by the square foot, but this would be better, especially if you're in Europe or somewhere else that's doesn't really go with square footage, or if you're in your business don't want to price by square footage. So you can do
Yeah,
different home
that's awesome.
sizes. And this will give you a base rate based on the size of the home essentially. And
Yeah,
then
and
here
essentially
we
you're just choosing whichever one you want set up in your calculator. You can't go back and forth between the 2, right?
exactly, yeah, so you would pick one or the other, and then you can change the labels of how it's displayed, like, so it doesn't have to say small, medium, large, but essentially a client would pick that, and then it just assigns a price to that based on the size of the home.
Gotcha.
Um, and then you're in Ohio, so I believe in Ohio, they do charge like a 5.25 or 75% sales tax, something like that.
It's
We'll
bad, but
say
I don't know. I really don't know.
we'll say 5 and a quarter for sales tax. Some people might wanna put, like, an admin fee in here or any type of other additional fee that you would want on top of your cleaning rate, so you can change that here. And then this is where you would put in the actual notifications to where you wanna get an email and text when a lead is submitted. So I'm just gonna put in my information for this, which brings us to the next step. Okay. So what it's saying here is what we're setting right now is your standard one-time cleaning rate, and everything else will be based off of that, whether it's your recurring discounted cleaning prices or your move-in, your deep cleaning. Everything's gonna kinda go based off of the rate that we're setting for your standard one-time cleaning, like I said. So what even if you don't offer standard one-time cleaning, we still wanna get this number dialed in because, like I said, it affects everything else in the system. So what's really cool with this is it's gonna show you 6 different home examples, and based off of your input, it'll adjust the pricing and the time, the job length for that size home. So for here, we have a 2-bedroom, 1 full bath, about 900 square foot, and we're saying that that job should be roughly 3 hours of labor with an estimated price of 178 because it's taking the hourly rate that we set in the first step and then multiplying it by the estimated labor here. So for this, now the other thing with all of this is everything is set based off of your actual pricing right now. So these should be as accurate as possible to your business, but for somebody else that wants to adjust it, we have the options here to either say that this price and time looks too low or it looks too high. And then the other thing you can do is even set an exact price if you know exactly how much you would want to charge for this size home.
Yes,
So
and
let's
this is just to calibrate everything, correct? This is just so that the system kind of knows what your prices should look like?
exactly, yeah. Because based off of what we're saying here, it'll adjust your formula because that's what we did for you basically. We came up with a formula to show, for different size homes, essentially how productive the team is in each of those size homes. And we kind of broke it into like 3 different sizes, like a small home, a regular average size home, and then the larger size homes. So each one of those has different production rates in the back end assigned to it. Um, which a lot of that stuff was like way too nerdy for you, but it worked out in the end, correct?
Yes.
Okay. So we're gonna look at this one. We're gonna say that that price looks good for you, um, for what you would wanna quote somebody on a one-time cleaning, standard
Yeah,
cleaning.
and just to clarify, I think 178 would be too high for my business if we were doing a recurring clean. But for a one-time clean, I think it's reasonable. For my business specifically, we charge higher for the one-time cleans than we do for the weekly cleans or the biweekly cleans. We like to charge a lesser amount each frequency they go up. So if they're weekly cleans, it's going to be a lot cheaper than a one-time clean. You want to price this off of a one-time clean.
Exactly.
178 is a little high, like I said, but just kind of do your own thinking when you're setting up your own calculator, and one-time clean, just keep that in mind.
Yeah, that was a really good, distinction to make. Um, so when we look at the next size home here, this is a 3-bedroom, 2 full bath, 1,300 square foot. And again, we're saying that this job should take a total labor of 3 hours and 17 minutes, and then based on our hourly rate set in the first step, brings us to a price of 197. So for example, let's just say that this looks too high, like that price is too much. once you click that, it's gonna recalibrate and say, how does this look now? So we've reduced it by, however much that was. Um, and then once that looks good, it'll bring you to the next step.
I
And I
do
would
have a
say this.
question.
Yes.
Let's say that somebody just wants to base their business off of my exact pricing, because as
Mhm.
you mentioned, this calculator is kind of made with my exact pricing in mind,
Mhm.
which is the pricing that I've used to grow my six-figure business. If somebody just presses looks good, looks good, looks good, and wants the same prices as my business, but then decides that they're either too low or too high once they actually start utilizing the tool, the pricing tool, can they go back later on and recalibrate the tool so that it's more in line with what they think their pricing should be?
Yeah, absolutely, and I think that is also a really unique feature with this is how quickly you're able to go back and adjust your pricing.
Recalibrate. Okay.
Exactly, because I've used other systems to, capture leads, and that is one of the hardest parts is when you set your pricing up, it's like line by line, you have to set every single variable up, and then if you to go back and change your pricing, a lot of times it messes with the system itself and just causes more headaches than it's worth. But for this, it is super easy to just come back here, and like I said, you can either calibrate it with the too high, too low options, or set an exact target price that you want to charge for this size home. So, for
Perfect.
example,
Yeah, I
like
think
if
that's really important as people learn and grow. The fact that they're able to come back and adjust this as need be is gonna be really important.
yeah, and I know for me personally, I've changed my pricing like at least 3 or 4 times over the course of a couple
I have
years in
to.
my business, right? Because your skills become a little bit better. You get more knowledgeable on what it takes to actually clean professionally, and then also too, you get more familiar with how your service actually performs as far as how much time you spend on different size homes.
Right.
Um, so again, we have a 4 bedroom, 2.5 bath, 2,300 square foot. And again, you would just keep going through the same process of saying too high, too low, or you can set an exact price if you wanted to. So, for example, if we wanted to say we know we charge 260 for this size home, it'll direct us right to that amount. Same thing here. And then the last one here is a 5 bed, 4 bathroom, 3,800 square foot, which is just over 7 hours of labor. And we'll say that looks good.
Yes, and then one more side note.
Mhm.
So this is based off of time spent in homes. That's where we're trying to kind of like nail down our prices. Sometimes when somebody purchases this calculator and uses this tool in their business, they may be just starting out or still learning, so they might not know exactly what time or how much time their team will spend in a certain home. So, for the people like that, I would suggest just going through and going possibly with the prices that I have on there already, just because they've
Mhm.
worked for me, but then see how many potential clients you're gaining or you're losing. If you're losing all of them, then you know your price is too high and you should readjust. But if you're getting all of them, then your price is going to be probably you need to raise your price. So
Mhm.
I guess I'm just trying to say that if you don't know the time yet and you're still learning, you're still able to set this up and readjust later.
No, that's a really good point. I'm glad you brought that up. Um, because it is important. I think one of the things that I've noticed, at least with people I've met with, is that they aren't as 100% confident on how long a job should take.
Yeah, it's hard to know that
It
exactly.
is, which is another reason why we'd set this up without giving an exact price if you don't want to. And I think giving that
Mhm.
range does have a little bit more flexibility and just gives the client and the customer a potential range that they know, okay, the cleaning should fall somewhere in
Right.
here, and it's really helpful for, like, weeding out the people that expect to pay half, like, the ones that are looking for the
Yes.
really cheap cleaner is never gonna be the client for you, So,
Right.
being able to, like, at least not even waste your time on that person is really helpful as well.
Absolutely.
Um, so now we're on step 3 of setting up your pricing system, which is your recurring discounts. So you do 35% off for weekly, 30% for every other week, and then a 20% off for every 4 weeks. And if we wanted to, we could change the names of these. So instead of every other week, you can do every 2 weeks. You can do, you can also add frequencies if you do offer like a every 6 or 8 week or even an every 3 week option.
Weeks, yeah.
So you,
And just to clarify too, so this is why it's so important to calibrate the calculator based on your one-time clean
mhm,
because it's saying it's 20% off of that frequency, 20% off of the one-time clean. Every other week
right.
is 30% off of the one-time clean and so on.
Yeah, that's really, you know, so what that'll do too is it'll show you down here what that looks like. So we calibrated the one-time rates, which is the first column for those 6 examples. So now you can see what the frequency discount would do to each of those and what those quotes would look like to a client. And again, it kind of breaks it into like a small size home, an average size, and then a larger size home. So it gives you a
Love
good
it.
idea of what the range should look like in your pricing for different clients at different size homes, essentially. And you can kind of see as well that for, those really small like studio apartments, let's say, your minimum price is going to become the actual price that you're charging just because of the size of the home and the discount that you offer. Um, so the next part here would be setting up the actual services that you offer. And again, you can change the names of what they're called here. So maybe instead of standard cleaning, you might call it your recurring cleaning option or anything like that. Or your deep cleaning might be actually like your initial cleaning. And that's a good point also is I know a lot of the feedback I've gotten recently was they don't wanna have a one-time cleaning option on their website because they don't offer that. If there's somebody's doing a one-time cleaning for them, that's considered like a deep cleaning. Um, so in that case, you can customize the frequencies available for each of the different types of cleaning. So we would just not show standard one-time cleaning available to the client as an option to pick, basically. Um, this way, it would by default they would only see like the deep cleaning or the move in move out for that service. And we can also, like I said, not have it show that unless you want to do like the one time cleaning for standard cleaning. Um, so again, in here, like maybe some people do offer like a every 4 week or every 8 week deep cleaning. You could also add that as an option to this as well with the same frequency discounts. And the last part here is underneath each of the different cleanings, you can give a little short description as to like who it's made for. So like the move in, move out, you might want to say like, the home is completely empty and it's great to like reset if you're moving into a new home. So now this is step 5 and we're getting into setting the your rates for your deep and your move in, move out cleanings. And like we mentioned before, it's taking whatever that standard one-time cleaning rate is and multiplying it by this factor. So for your business, we look at a deep cleaning as 1.5 times longer than a standard one-time cleaning would take, and then your move-in, move-outs are twice as long, and it's just because of all the extra additional work that's needed. Even though the house is empty, there's still a lot of work
Right.
that goes into those cleanings.
Right.
So same thing as we saw with the frequency discounts, we can adjust the sliders here, and you can see the pricing adjust as well as we go. So again, it kinda goes into like a small, average, and large size home. But you can kind of see what that would scale would look like depending on the amount that you change the slider here too. So I'm going to go put it back to what the default was. And now we can go into more of the add-ons. So this is step 6 now. And if you want to adjust any of these, you can always go to edit. You can change the name of it, how it's priced. So you could do a quantity base, like maybe you charge per pet, let's say. Um, and then you can assign where that should show up for. So, like, if somebody's going through to get a quote and you charge for pets, you might not necessarily want to charge for pets on like a move in, move out cleaning, because ideally there shouldn't be anyone there. And then you can also reorganize them. So, like, if you wanted, inside the refrigerator to show closer to the top, you can, reorder them. Um, you can always add a custom option as well. So if you do, I know you do like wet wiping baseboards, and that could be, just a flat rate based on, your service, right?
Yeah, that's awesome that you can add as many as you'd like or take off as many as you'd like as
Mhm.
well.
And then this is like an example of what one would look like if you're doing a quantity base. So, you might say per bed. And again, you would not want that to show for like a move in, move out. And then you can change the price here. So once that is set, now you have all your add-ons. They're customized and configured for the type of cleaning. Um, Now we go to step 7, which is reviewing everything. And if you've purchased our original pricing calculator more for like figuring out how to do pricing, then this should look familiar, and you can actually go through now and do any custom quote that you would want to see what that price would look like based on the information that we put in on the previous steps. And we can even change the service types and the frequencies for your standard cleaning. So again, this is really helpful to really give you like a full picture of the whole um, pricing system, basically.
Yeah, it's really cool. This has helped me so much already. I have a general manager and I have another manager that deals with pricing as well. And this has made it so much easier for us to share the same consistent pricing. And there's no room for error. Our prices are always profitable, and I think this tool is so amazing. I also love the fact now that we can put it on my website so that clients can receive their range of pricing without contacting us first. I think it saves so much time and admin work as well. So it's a really great tool.
No, I love that, and I think it was interesting because when we first met, you were like, you were pretty confident that your pricing was so unique that it would be hard to
Yeah,
come up with a formula. But then once
right.
we started looking through all the data, we realized that there is a pattern to the different size homes, and it was really cool to be able to see that and then translate it into this pricing system that we have here.
Right. And I do a lot of business coaching as well. And a lot of times people will say, I don't really know how I price. I just do it in my head. It makes sense to me. That's exactly what I was saying. So,
Yeah.
when we first met. So it is really cool now that I have a system and that there's no more guesswork. I think that's a lot of times where cleaning business owners struggle is they guess on the pricing, and sometimes that means that they're not profiting on a job.
Yeah, exactly, and then also too, I think it just becomes a little bit more professional when you know that you're
Yes,
confident in your pricing and you're
it
not
does. Yes.
guessing. Um, so the last step here after you can go through, put different pricing variables in here to see what that does to the quote. It just gives you an overview of all the 7 steps that we've done previously. So you can see again as a review. And once everything looks good, now we can start building the actual form that is going to go on your website. And this is the part that I really love with this is that it gives you the customization to put this on your website in a simple way though. That was like really important to
Right.
both of us, I think, was to make it simple and easy to go through and get this ready from 0 to on the website in, I would say definitely under an hour. But
For
really just,
sure.
you know,
Yeah. And the first part of this video is just showing, as we mentioned, how to calibrate your pricing. But this is what your clients will see. So we Eddie's gonna show everyone how to put this on your website, and this is what your client will see when they go there, which makes you look much more professional. And you're able to change the colors too, which Eddie will show you. I think it's really cool.
yeah, absolutely. Um, so like you mentioned, this is what the client now is actually going to fill out in order to get their price estimate and what you're going to receive in uh, from the client as far as like what their quote should be. So the first part here is setting up how you want the form to go. So you can either set it so the client can see the price first before putting in their information, or what I would prefer to do is have it go based off of the lead first. So they put all their home information in, put their contact information in, and then they click the button to see what their price would be. And in this way too, like doing it that way, every lead that comes to the website, ideally they'll give you their contact information before seeing the price that you would offer.
I like it
Um,
better that way as well.
yeah, I think it makes sense. The only reason why I would do price first is anyone that does that and then gives you their information, like those are really going to be somebody that's like ready to almost book or
That's
like
true.
is truly fine. Like, so it's going to give you less leads, but the ones that do come through are going to be very high intent, I would say.
That's true.
So we're going to change the business name. You can even add like servicing, you know, your areas. You could put in like a tagline like
Mine's clean home, clear mind. That's probably what I'd put under mine.
okay. Um, and then in here too, we can even upload your logo. Uh, so that
That's
replaces
awesome.
the business name, and then we can last part here is I would change the brand color. Oh, okay, so now it looks more like your website and your company's branding.
It does, yeah, that's awesome.
Okay, so then the next part is actually designing what that first page looks like. It's called your landing page. And this is what the first thing clients going to see when they go to get their estimate or wherever you put this on your website. This is the first thing they're going to see for this. So you have the three different options here that are already on the form. So it would be the headline, which is right now it says get your instant cleaning estimate, the sub headline, and then the button text or your call to action, it's called. So those first 3 things is what you can change here in the hero section. The next part of that would be your trust badges. So here you can have up to 5 displayed, and then you can always add your own custom option as well. But for you, let's say we do background checks and, locally owned, for example. And then the last part here is, again, it's optional, but you could put in basically the 3 different steps on how somebody would go through and get their pricing. And if you really wanted to, you can even add a frequently asked questions section as well. So like that gives you just a little bit more options to help sell. I would probably do this more so if I didn't have the website already set up. If I was just using this without having a website, because basically you could take this and link it. If you post on Facebook or wherever you have like your business pages set up, theoretically you could just link to this form itself without having a website, which is another key
That's
feature I
cool.
think for somebody that's just starting out that hasn't dropped a few $100s for a website yet.
Right, yeah.
Um,
I guess you could probably put that link in, like, an email as well. If
mhm.
you have a client interested in pricing, you could just send them the link to this through an email, and that would make that easier that way as well.
Yeah, 100%. Anywhere that you would want to like share a link, you could theoretically do that with this without having to have a website as well. Um, Okay, then we have the next part is like the client's contact information. And so you have the text above that you can edit and then the call to action button that you can edit. So both of those are customizable. And the last part here for this page is you can choose if you want to require them to fill out the property address, which is really helpful for Jobber, I would say, because that's like a
Yeah.
key field in Jobber that you would need to have in order to like create quotes and jobs and everything within that system.
Because
So
you
for
can
you,
integrate this in a Jobber as well. I don't even think we've talked about that part yet.
no, that would probably like we'll mention it, but I think that would probably be a separate video on like how to actually
Right.
go through the integrations. But that is another key feature I think is being able to take all the lead information that does get submitted here and sending it out to different CRMs. So if you use Go High Level,
Right.
Jobber, Google Sheets, whatever you do currently, you could also have this information sent there as well very easily. um, so again, you can customize a little bit on here, and then the last part, which I think is like the most important thing, is figuring out how you want to display your pricing. And then, so let's start with how we want to display the pricing. By default, it's going to give you a $25 range. So if you would normally charge, let's say, $200 for this house, based on everything that we set up and calibrated, it would show the client a 175 to 225 range on their estimate. Um, you could also do it by percentage, which I think would be better for some people, like especially if you offer like the initial cleaning as a deep cleaning. I might make it a 10% range here instead. Or if you really want to, you could give an exact price as well. If you just know, like, you just want to use this price, it's going to be the exact price that you want to deploy. That's another option as well. But personally, I would do the $25 range plus or minus. I think that's like a really good starting point. And then in here again, you can change, the button that it says, like how it displays, and we'll look at what it actually looks like once we're done here in a second. Um, the other thing I really like is this offer, and I think what makes this special is it allows you to give people that are coming onto your website, getting the price, a little bit more of an incentive to book with you versus, your competitors. And it's almost like gives them a chance to like almost buy into, your service ahead of time before they even had to contact you. So I know, for example, like some people like to do 10% off their first cleaning. I know somebody else I met with wanted to do like half off a fridge cleaning on the first appointment as a
Oh,
special
nice.
offer.
Yeah, and you can change it to whatever. That's awesome.
Yeah. Yeah. So anything that you would want to put in here, as an offer, you can set that up as well. And it'll let you know if somebody claims that offer. It will come through and let you know that they act like they selected it and they want to like employ it on their first cleaning, let's say.
Where would it let you know that information?
It's going to show you when we go to the lead section. On the contact's name, it'll say, that it's a new lead, but then also that they
Okay,
claim this
nice.
offer. hmm Um, and the other thing with this too is that you can switch it up seasonally, which I think is really helpful. So, like maybe we're coming into spring right now. You might want to say, save $50 on a deep cleaning, and then that would encourage people to sign up for a
Right.
deep cleaning instead. So there's a lot you can
Add
do with
multiple
this.
offers?
Say again.
Can you add multiple offers?
You can only have one at a time.
Okay,
Um, but like I said, you can change it up as
change it
often
up.
as you would like.
Very
And then
nice.
the last part here is if somebody does go through and decides that they aren't ready to book yet, let's say like they, get through to the point before they like submit their contact information and say like get my estimate, it'll show them this pop up with different reasons why they might not be ready. So it gives you like a feedback loop as to why somebody didn't want to go through with, let's say, getting their final like quote with you, which I think is really helpful because then you can kind of see like maybe if a lot of people are saying your prices seem too high, or if they, still have questions that they want to ask you. It just gives you a little bit more of a reason why somebody might not drop off and completely ghost you before ever even speaking with you, essentially. And then the same thing here, you can always remove options or add your own custom options as well. And then so that's really like the whole setup of the actual system, from the pricing to customizing what the form should look like. And all of that, like I said, is fairly easy to do, and it's designed to be something that is easily changed as many times as you need to as well.
Right, yeah. I like that nothing is completely locked in and everything is customizable, even if you wanna do that, 3, 4, 5 times throughout your business. I love that feature.
Yeah, absolutely. So we can look at it here. We can go to the next step, which is going to be to installing it on your website, or we can even just preview what it would look like, that we've built here. So when we look at the preview, it's not going to we can go through, but it's not going to actually submit the information. So it'll give you like a good test run without actually entering real information. But you can see from all those steps that we did, um, it has the service types, the frequency that somebody would want to select, property details, all of the add-ons, and then when they hit see my price, so because we selected contact information first, they would have to put their information in ahead of time before actually going through and getting their price estimate. And just like that, now every other week was roughly between 156 and 206 for your cleaning service. And then same thing, they can claim this offer if they want to. And at that point, once somebody does this on live, like whether it's on your website or through the link, at that point, within the first, what would you say, like 30 seconds, you'll get the email and text with all their
Yeah,
information, which is
yeah,
great to like,
I love it.
yeah, it makes it super helpful to like just follow up and be alerted that a lead came through, especially with the text feature. I think that's really key. Because right
Yeah,
then
it's
and there,
really important to follow up with your leads as soon as you're able. It really sets you apart in professionalism and shows that you're serious about their business. And something else I want to point out, the reason that my business likes to do the range as the estimate is that I personally don't book any cleans without doing some sort of virtual or in-person walkthrough first. And the range just gives them a number, like you said, so they can know if they can afford it or not. But then after I do the walkthrough, I will give them an exact price. If you
mhm.
don't wanna do the walkthroughs, I think that's when the exact price might be more beneficial for you and your business. So that's just personally why I like to do the range because it gives them an idea, and then once I do the walkthrough, then I can actually give them a set price.
No, that's perfect, and I think you'll find that people will, already have an idea of what they wanna spend. They already have a budget in mind,
Yeah,
and they're just trying to verify, like, who's the best customer or who's the best cleaning service for that budget. So, the more
right.
professional you can look and being like, to your point, to follow up as soon as possible when you're ready, I think shows that you are, committed to providing great customer service as well.
Absolutely.
So we kind of saw what the preview looks like here. Now let's see what it would do, how we would actually install this on your website. So we have a few different options here and it gives you some instruction, but basically the link here, that's great. If you don't have a website, you can just share this link and people can go directly to that form like we just built and go through and get their estimate. We have the embed code. This is great for your website and this will actually display it directly on your website. And I could show you an example of what one of those would look like. So they already have it on their website here, and so you can see same thing. It just kind of puts it on their site, and then somebody can go through and put all their information in. So, for example, if you have, depending on the type of website that you use, so like I know a lot of people use Squarespace to start off. Um, Within there, you can add a code block, and then copy and paste this code directly onto your website. Um, so that's like one option that I would recommend doing, and it should be ready to go. Like it shouldn't have any issues. I've embedded like other codes on from different like softwares, and a lot of times the formatting is a little bit off, or like it cuts off halfway through. But we made sure that, like this one should not do that because it has the actual like inputs in there as well to make it so that it should display on the screen without any issues, basically. But it gives you instructions here on like how to do it for different types of sites, and then just to set it just says to like test your system basically. So if we were to go through and actually put that information in, so we can see what it looks like, where the leads go, and all that information. All right, perfect. So, like I said, within if we had set this up with the contact information in that first step of the pricing system, at this point, I would be getting the email and the text with the contact information. Going back to here, though, we also will see it here in your leads section. So if you go to the dashboard, it'll show you like some recent leads, and then you can click view all, and that'll bring you to this page, or you can go directly to it. But from here, especially like if you're on the road or if you're, at the office, but you when you click view on the leads information, that'll bring up everything that you want to see as far as their contact information, what service that they were looking for, the price range that they were displayed, as well as if they were to sign up for any of the other recurring options, what that pricing would look like as well. It shows you the property details, like the size of their home, their address, and then if they claim that offer, which, like I said, we did as an example here, we did claim that offer. So from here, like I said, especially if you're on the road, you can click the call button and it'll directly call that person's phone number
I
so
think
you can
that's
get in touch
awesome
with them.
too.
Or you can even generate your quote and create the quote on here as well. So if we wanted to create the quote, like you said, you would probably do an exact price, and that's the price that the system thinks you would charge, which is 150 for the size home for an every other week cleaning. You could also just completely override it and set your own price. So maybe after the virtual walkthrough, you realize it's going to be a little bit extra, of a cleaning. So maybe we do like 170 is the price instead. Um, and then from there, you would be able to download the PDF. And now you have this nice professional quote that you can download an email, text, however you want to send it to your client for them to see, the service that they picked, the person that it was prepared for, and the total that you would want to charge them.
Very nice.
And based off of the customization, it already has your logo and company name pre-filled into the quote builder here and the brand color, as you can see. Um, the other really important thing I think with this that I want to mention is, like we mentioned before, it's super important to follow up consistently with your leads because most of the time somebody's not going to submit their information and ready to book the appointment like that first phone call. A lot of times it's going to take a couple of contacts, or maybe they just need a little bit more nurturing in order to go from a lead to a customer. So let's say we spoke to the person and they say that they're interested but they want a little bit more information. So you can change them to the status of each of the leads as well. So we have a new lead, which is somebody that's brand new and submitted their information. You have contacted, which means that you've, reached out to them or like made, actually spoke with the person. And then you have quoted, which is really good if you, sent the information, you sent the quote, and you need to like determine whether they're going to book with you or they decided to go with a different company. So anyone that's in quoted, I would want to like follow up with at least pretty regularly, like I would say every
Okay.
day, just trying to find out if they have any questions, like what's, finding out like what's stopping them from getting on your schedule, basically. Um,
Absolutely.
because ultimately you want to move everyone through that sales pipeline. So, ideally you shouldn't have new leads sitting here from like months or weeks prior. Same thing with like the contact and quoted. Really, at the end of it, you want to funnel everyone into either a won or a lost lead. So one leads are going to be the people that actually booked your service that are now a client of yours. And then if they lost, maybe it just wasn't the right time or there's one reason or another. But anyone that's lost is good now to have this information to market to like every month, I would say. Right? Unless they told you
Yeah,
like
that's great.
do not contact me, every month I would send them an email or
Really
some type
good
of
idea.
newsletter just to like try to stay top of mind. And even if they
Yeah,
went with a different company, on that when they were looking, who's to say like 3 months from now that company
right.
isn't performing to their expectations and now they are looking to possibly switch to a new cleaner again. So it's always helpful to have this list. You can export it into Excel, and then just like I said, every month or so I would just send them an email, text, something just to try to stay top of mind.
Nice.
uh, So that's like how you would manage your leads as far as where they are in the sales process, and then how you would contact them and all their property information that displays here. Then we have the analytics, which I love this part because, like we talked about before, when you can set different offers by month or, however frequently you want to, this is where it'll give you that clarity on how well that offer is performing, or at least like what how much that contributes to people submitting their information. So you can see here how many times the page was viewed, how many times somebody started to get their quote, how many people actually like submitted their information, and then how many people decided not to go through and get a quote. So essentially, what you're tracking is your conversion rates for that quote system. So, like I said, I would look at this like on a month to month basis probably, and I would change different offers. Try to, if I'm testing different prices, I could also see here like which prices are converting better versus like higher or lower pricing. So it just gives you a lot more
Right.
clarity to make decisions based off of how many people are actually going through and submitting their information.
Yeah, that's really cool as well.
And then, like I said, every month or so, I would probably like reset it. But first, I would download a PDF or like export it so you know what to compare it to for the next month. Um, I'll briefly talk about this, but we're not going to get too deep into it on this call. But we do have the option as well to integrate this, like you said, with Jobber, Go High Level, any of the Zapier apps. So like if you're not familiar, like Zapier basically is like a hub for all different softwares that connect to it. So like that lead information can come in, you can have it sent out to Slack or wherever you want to really like send it. That also connects here, which is really cool. Um, we have another feature, so like this would be really helpful for you, for example. So you're gonna have a login, but then your general manager is gonna have a login as well, and then your other manager, that your other branch as well is gonna have her own login. So, theoretically, for your business specifically, we could set up 2 different pricing systems, one for your branch and one for your partner's branch. Each of you could have logins, and you would only have her see the leads that are for her specific area.
Okay, nice.
Yeah, so this way, she's only gonna see the leads that are coming in based on the form for her area, and, like, what I would do basically on the website is, have clients pick, like, which location they're closest to, whether it's, this location or the other, and then based on that, it would split it to the different forms that we create. So, all that to say is, you can also set it up where they can view specific pricing for their area as well. Um And then if you had any questions, you can always contact us. I have my email in here. Another really great place to get in touch with Megan or myself would be in our school community as well. I do try to like monitor that or have it open as one of my tabs daily. So any questions in there, that would be a great place also to reach out and ask any questions that you have.
Absolutely, yeah. Yeah, I appreciate you going over all of this with me. I have been using this system and I've been loving this system, and still, every time you explain it, I learned something new. I learned about a new feature. So I really appreciate all of this information and I've been loving it so far. It's been working really well for my business.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, I appreciate you jumping on this call with me and helping me display all this. And we're really excited to get this out there and having people using it for their own businesses as well.
Yeah, yeah. Just to clarify, if anybody needs anything at all, feel free to contact me or Eddie. We're always happy to help.
All right. Well, thank you so much. I appreciate it.
Yeah, thank you, Eddie. Bye.
Bye.